Everybody, welcome to the National Signing Day podcast. I'm your host, Coach Barton. Today we're going to be talking about having a plan. And I know when you really think about it, when it comes to getting yourself recruited, you have to have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're not getting recruited. But this is a little bit different. So this podcast is going to be about having a plan for after school. So one of the cool things I get to do is I get an opportunity to go speak in a lot of high schools. And typically, I'm brought in to do a college recruiting workshop. Every once in a while, I'll be brought in to do a leadership course to not just the athletes, but the students as well. But no matter what I'm speaking on, I always try to squeeze this in because I think it's super important. And I think it's something that we don't think about. So, parents don't think about it. Athletes don't think about it. What happens is I think as a parent, we kind of get this idea of going to college, that's the pinnacle. My kids, climbed Mountain Summit, check, all things are good. But in reality, that's not really the case. So it's what happens after school. And what we find is, we don't have a plan and don't put ourselves in position to literally be successful, right? And when you think of athletes or even students that go to school, here's the stats, right? And they're on the internet. So if they're on the internet, we know the rule. Must be true, right? But 56% of students, right, end up taking a job that didn't even require a degree. So think about that. Over half of all the students that go to college end up taking a job that didn't even require a college degree. Right now, let's say you have $100 in debt. You have $100 in debt, and you end up working at a job that didn't even require that degree. And then almost 75% of students end up taking a job outside of the degree. So you're talking over 50 and 75% of students at colleges all over the country, probably all over the world, they really didn't go in with a plan. So I want to talk about that for a sec because it's super, super important, right? And I know most people when they're, when you're 15, when you're 16, when you're 17, I get it, right? You don't know what you're passionate about yet. You may not find your passion until you're 30, 35, maybe even later, maybe 40. So if you don't know what you're passionate about, I would ask a couple things. I'd ask, one, what are things that you're really good at? What have you been gifted, right, to where you're super good at specific areas? But another thing I would always ask is whatever you feel like you want to take, because this is what happens. We look at a sheet and we're like, let's just pick this and let's take it. So before you do that route, and that's not a good route, right? Before you do that route, I want you to, Google that profession and find out what they make per year. And then you ask yourself, are you good with that? And if the answer is yes, then go for it, right? But if the answer is no, then I want you to put some thought into it. I want you to have a plan. Like, think about what it is you want to do. And this could change, but, choose a profession out of the gate that's going to pay you a really good salary. And here's my take on it. I know some people are like, well, that just, no, it's not about the money. Well, it kind of is, right? So what happens is, let's say you're 35 years old, and you find something that you're totally passionate about, and now you're ready to go. Well, what happens is if you're not in a position to be able to fund that transition, man, you're going to be stuck where you're at forever, right? So if you took a high-paying job, at least you can afford that transition, right? You can fund it yourself. So it's super, super important. I want you to think about that, and I tell people to do this all the time, right? So whatever it is you're thinking about taking, Google it, find out what it is you are, what you make every year, and then do it. And then go that route, because you can always change it later. And if you change it later, you can afford the transition. It's kind of funny. I kind of want to talk about this point. One of the things I always do is I always bring two athletes up at the very beginning. Not at the beginning, probably about in the middle. And I have one on my right, one on my left. And I do this experiment because I want the visual to stay with the audience when I'm doing a college recruiting workshop in a high school. And I always ask the audience, hey, listen, what's better? NCAA, D1, 4-year college, or junior college? Raise your hand. And every single person will always raise their hand for the 4-year, all of them, right? There's no like, not even one will do a junior college. Then the person on my right and the person on my left, they have these postcards. So I have the person on my right, as an example, they go to a D1, 4-year college, and I say, okay, what degree are you taking? And they have it on the postcard, they read it. And let's say it's horticulture. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now flip it over. What do you make in a year? And it's like, I don't know, 24 grand a year. Okay, now let's go to, the next student athlete. And they went to a JC, a 2-year college. And I'm like, what did you major in? and they majored in, air traffic controller. And then I say, flip it over. What did you make your first year? And it was 124 grand. So now I ask the audience, hey, what's better, a 4-year or a 2-year? And no one raises their hand because they're thinking about it, right? And that's what I want you to do. I don't just want you to go in there nilly-willy, right? And you just pick something and you go for it, because I told you the stats at the beginning. They're not great. So really have a plan on what you want to do when you get out of school. And that starts before you actually even go to college by what you're going to take, what's going to be your major. Think about it. I think most, student athletes, they don't think about that. They just pick something, they roll with it. And then ultimately, most of them, over half of them ended up working at a place that didn't even require a degree. So have a plan. We know when it comes to college recruitment, you have to have a plan. We get that. We talk about that every single week on this show. We give you, plans. We give you the steps. We show you how to do it. But it's not just about recruitment. So have a plan for your profession, what you want to do with your life, what job you want to work at, or what it is you want to take. That way, you're prepared, and you're going to have a much, much, much better result than if you just wing it. So hopefully that sticks with some of you. If you're a parent, you're going to want to listen to this a couple times, or maybe even share it with friends or family that have athletes at home, because this is a vital piece. And I promise you, you may not thank me today, but 10, 15, 20 years down the road, you're going to definitely be thanking me that you not only heard this, but you actually moved forward and you set up a plan. So make sure you visit us on National Signing Day Podcast if you have any questions. We definitely love to help you and assist you in your college recruiting journey. Until next week, I'm Coach Martin, and I'm out.